recorded now. Jerry, could you go back and read that again?
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize.
Okay. Udan gar imato soinada al uk in tuto dedikai omai ho de ana krinon me kuios estin. And it's probably a little cumbersome worded, but for I perceive nothing in myself, but I am not justified by this, but the Lord is the one judging or examining. I put judging because it's justification, and that judging is the same base word for justification.
So gar then expresses what then?
Just explanation of what he just talked about before.
And so you have to go back to verse 3 to see what he's talking about, see, because gar is looking back at it. And so he's going to explain verse 3, or maybe give a reason or grounds for a point he's made, right? But I think it's probably just explaining what he's talking about in verse 3. Right? I know, and there's several Greek words for know. Oida is one of those words. Let me see here. This is synoida. Oida, if we break it up, is one of those words. And then we have idon, to see with the eye of the mind more, right? But it's perfect tense. So what's perfect tense telling us in the Greek?
It was true and it still is.
It was true and it still is true. So I knew this and I still know it. I knew in the past nothing against myself, and I don't know anything now. And so you that are accusing me haven't provided evidence to show that I'm guilty. We have to be proved. We have to prove someone's guilty before we ought to even be thinking about accusing them of wrong. And so we need sufficient evidence. That's righteousness. And all of you, I think, yes, have my notes on righteousness. Okay. But righteousness demands that you have evidence before you accuse. You have to have sufficient evidence, not just trumped up evidence or manufactured evidence, okay? So we have oida, and that's what this is from. Idon is a form of that. To see with the eye of the mind, to see with one's eye of the mind. Now, this is a stronger form because it has a preposition soon with it. So I have seen together with others. So nobody has shown me evidence of my being wrong in this matter.
I think it was a matter of glorying,
Yeah.
Being boastful of glorying.
Yeah. And so we have to back up a few verses to see what particular matter he's talking about, which gets us back to last semester. Okay, sorry about that. But as we see the glory, any comments there? Always keep it in context. Never take it out of context. Now then, of course, we have uden, and this, of course, is a neuter form of udes. And so it's ude and haste are one. U is not, but it's the word not, and it goes with the statement of fact. It denies the fact, whereas may right here deals with more of the thoughts of the mind. So we've gotten into those, looked at the differences in those two words. But this is ude in ace, or ude ace, or haste, which is day and one, and not one, or but not one. So it's pretty emphatic. And it's rather than may. It could be may days, and that's a little more iffy. Real firm, real established. I don't know, I don't know now, I haven't known in the past anything against myself regarding this matter, of course. nothing in my methods that would justify their judging Paul as they had done. Nothing done by myself, right? Against myself. This is dative. It could be instrumental by means of myself, see. That's something that I've done by means of myself. So it's dative, instrumental, locative form.
I made it locative.
And so it's in myself. That's certainly plausible, or by means of myself. It's something I have done. So I have done by myself, a possibility, or nothing in myself is another possibility. Now, if you're making notes for someone else to use, you need to be aware that what I do is I put the options that the Greek will allow, and then I tell the one that I think's right, and let the reader judge for himself. Is that clear? Any question? All right. Yet or but. Now, if you were in the earlier class, which you weren't, or just one of you was, but the rest of you weren't, Allah is a strong adversative, and it takes things that are different sets. Okay? Allah, correcting member, is not a member, it's a new element. So it's something different or new. That's what it's saying. It's something new. And again, we have who again. I am not hereby or in this justified. And again, this is perfect middle passive form. Now, it could be passive, and again, we can't tell it's middle passive in form. If it's passive, I haven't been justified by this.
I don't justify myself.
Or if it's middle, I haven't been justify myself. That's what it said. That's correct. Again, we don't know which it is. We'd have to go to the context, and I would make a good argument. And maybe he's saying that I haven't been justified by this, or I haven't justified myself by this either.
I took it passive that he couldn't justify it anyway, so it would have to be God justifying it. So I made it passive.
So I made a note here. I referred to Acts 23:1. We won't go there, but you can study it on your own. The fact that I'm ignorant or unaware, ignorant doesn't mean stupid. It means just don't know something. Well, for crying out loud, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I'm not very good at baking cakes. Okay, all right. I let my wives do that. Okay, my first wife who passed away, and then I married again. So I'll let them bake the cakes. All right, but I've done it before, but I'm not real good at it. The fact that I'm ignorant or unaware of anything that I've done that is wrong, Paul says, and basically what he's saying is I'm ignorant. I don't know of anything that I've done that's wrong, but that in itself doesn't make me innocent, because God knows, and I might be ignorant of I might have done something ignorantly, not knowing that I was doing wrong. That's a possibility. I think he was ignorant when he was persecuting the church as Saul of Tarsus. I think he thought he was doing right, but he had a good conscience, see. But he certainly was doing wrong, we know that. So, and he left that possibility open, certainly. I could be wrong. And again, it's not because I have a bad heart, because I just haven't been taught. And so teach me, show me where I've done wrong, and I'll correct it. I think we all should have that attitude. Any comments or questions? All right. But he that judges. Now, this is a participle. What does an articular participle denote for us? How we translate it?
The one who, whatever the verb is.
One who, see. But this is a perfect tense participle. Interesting.
Perfect. I kept present. Huh. Did I write it down wrong?
I put present.
Well, I had it as perfect tense.
Well, you
You
did.
might be right.
Right.
I'll defer.
We'll
to
go
you.
back and study it some more then. Okay.
I probably just looked it up wrong.
Okay. But if it's perfect tense, it indicates that Paul's work had already been judged by the Lord, and Paul by inspiration reveals this to the Corinthians. Right? What did you get? Did it come out perfect, or am I wrong? Wouldn't be the first time I was wrong.
Well, I'm looking at the manual and it's, Crino is present active participle.
It's present?
Anna. Crino. Well, it's what Munt says.
I put it as perfect, but it looks present.
But just the month.
I have it as present as well.
Okay. I think I made a mistake here. I need to correct it. All right, I'll make the correction tonight. Okay. In the Lord. So he's judging me right now, the Lord is. And I would say the Lord is judging him through what was being written. And the Lord had already made the decision. Paul, of course, speaks by inspiration. The Lord is Paul's judge, not the Corinthians. This is the servant and the steward and judged by their master in Romans 14:4.
I don't think it's just Paul being judged either, because everybody is being compared to the standard of the word, and because, I mean, I know the judgment is at the very end, but for all practical purposes, it is the very end for God, as you pointed out. So it is going on at this time.
Well, I know nothing wrong done by myself. I put wrong done in italics. Yet I am not justified in this, but the one that has judged me, and I did that with perfect tense, the one judging me is the Lord, would be a better translation. That's indeed present tense, and I think it looks like it. I don't know why I put perfect tense there.
That's only found in that form one time in the Bible right here, so.
Okay, it looks present tense. I think I'm wrong. Well, I'll come back to it next week. We'll do that again. All right, verse 4, if you would.
That's 4.
Verse 5, if you would there. Chris?
Okay.
And we'll go to James after that.
Hoste me pro quiero ti cernete hus on elethe ho curios hos kai potese ta brupta tu scotus kai vanerose a tas bolas ton perdion kai tote ho epanos genesetai ekeseto apo tu theo. All right, so I have wherefore not. Do you want it literal or just what I got out of it?
Well, just get your translation.
All right, my translation is, wherefore stop judging things before the time until the Lord come, who will bring to light the hidden things of the darkness, will make manifest the counsels of the darkness, and will make manifest the counsels of the hearts, and then the I have, I think, commendation to each man from God.
Okay.
I put praise.
Praise. I have praise up here and commendation down there.
Okay. All right, let's look at it. Wherefore, and that's host day. So then, I'm going to make a conclusion from it, consequent or result. And then it's crenete. That is either indicative or imperative mood. The form will be fit either. Now, how do we know what mood it is? And we do know from the context.
I think it's imperative, but the context.
It's imperative, you're correct. But the context proves it. All right. The negative may, right here, see may, doesn't go with the indicative mood. It goes with the other moods. So we know that it is a commandment. It's imperative mood. Before judge nothing before the time. All right, now wait. May with the present imperative, this is present imperative, means to stop doing something that you've been doing. Right? May with the present imperative means to stop doing something you've been doing. Right? So, nothing, I know nothing. And we have T right here. This is a pronoun indicating a certain one, indefinite pronoun, a certain one. It's something in the context he's talking about. Before what? Don't make a judgment before the what?
Before the time.
It's not chronos, it's kairos, eros. And so that's the season. That's like the season when the fruit's ripe. Until what time? So when is the season coming? The season for judgment, when is it coming? Until what?
The appointed time.
Until the Lord what?
Bring it to light. Who will bring it to light? The hidden things of the darkness.
Okay, when the Lord comes, say, when the Lord comes, and then he'll do what?
Do you have comes instead of brings? No. I guess it's the same. Okay.
It's a form of erchomai, to come or to bring,
Okay.
to come.
The hidden things of darkness, and will make manifest the counsels of the hearts. So he's going to check the heart.
Now, it has the particle on, which is not translatable because it's not translated anywhere in the New Testament, but it has the effect of making a statement contingent. And so it's not saying if the Lord will come, it's more the contingency, I think, is when he's going to come, when he may come, when the Lord may come, when he chooses to come. This subjunctive mood, see, when he decides to come. He's not telling us when he's coming. And who refers back to the one's come, I believe, the Lord. Will both do what? We got kai. We got double chi here. We got chi and chi again. Here, chi. And chi up here also. Both and. Both shall come, will both come. And he'll do what? He'll bring to light. So he's going to shed light on something, he's going to illuminate it. All right. What he's going to illuminate?
The hidden things of darkness are of the heart.
Now, darkness always represents what?
Something covered or not seen.
Yeah.
Or bad.
Usually, sin and error, usually in the Bible, okay? Sin and or error. And then he's going to, once he sheds light on it, what's going to happen?
It's going to be seen. It's going to be clear.
No, it's going to be seen. They're going to see what it is. Things will be shown for what they are. What's going to be made manifest, though? The what?
What's in the heart?
What's in people's hearts? How do you know what's in a person's heart? From the abundance of the heart, the what?
The mouth speaks.
The mouth speaks, but also other things. Evil, all sorts of evil comes out of a bad heart, but good comes out of a good heart. So all of the secret things that have been done or hidden, we think have been hidden, will be made known. What's in the heart? And this probably is a reference to the Day of Judgment. Now, what about sins that have been forgiven? I don't think the Lord will bring those up, but I could be wrong about that. But if he does, he'll still say, I've forgiven them. Okay? This is probably a reference to the Day of Judgment, when the season when God will judge man's secrets. We see this also in Romans 2:16. Any questions or comments there? then he says, and then what? At that time, it's an adverb of time, shall each man or each one, every one, and it's masculine, so that's why I translated man. Now then, this is from Ginomai. What is Ginomai? Have his praise.
Is that from Ginomai to beget something?
Well, it's to become or to come into existence.
Yeah.
So God's praise for us will come into existence at that time. It comes into existence, or it begins to be. Now, the Lord said, well done, thou what?
Good and faithful servant.
Good and faithful servant. See? So there's the praise that comes to be, begins to be, comes into existence. From what? From who? I don't care if all the people in the world praise me and God doesn't. I'm in trouble. Does that make sense? It's only God that's important as far as the praise is concerned. Were there some that wanted the praise of men more than the praise of God? Yeah, some of the Jews did, didn't they? They wanted the praise of men. And what were they doing? They're elevating men to be leaders of a sect. And they were saying, I'm a Paul, I'm Apollos, I'm Cephas. Well, I don't think Paul, Apollos, and Cephas wanted people following them. But they were trying to elevate them up. All right. Praise or commendation in the spiritual realm is strictly the prerogative of God, not our prerogative. Now, if we go to 2 Corinthians 10:12 and 10:18, we won't go there, but I'd encourage you to make a note of that. There were some that were commending themselves. This is the same church. This second epistle may have been written about 5 or 6 months later. So the contingency of on, off anew right here in this verse, not a contingency of when the Lord will return, but a contingency of the time or date of his coming. You can see, I think that's what it's a contingency of. All right. So I translated verse 5, wherefore stop judging things before the time, and I did footnote that, 89, footnote 89, a fifth season, like when the fruit is ripe, until the Lord come, who will both bring to light the hidden things of darkness and will make manifest the counsel of the hearts. And then the commendation will come to each man from God. I believe that's what it's saying. That's when the commendation occurs. And when I've been faithful unto death, then the commendation occurs. Any questions? Now, if a person obeys the gospel, I think the Lord commends him at that time. He's one of mine. But hopefully we don't fall away and lose that reward. Any comments or questions? James, got anything to say?
No, sir.
All right. Anybody else? I think we just got 4 students in here right now. All right. Now, in verses 6 through 13, Paul then ends this discussion in verse 5, and he goes into examples of proper attitudes to have. Some proper attitudes to have. Anyone have a question? There's someone has a comment there. Any question? All right. Okay. So let's read that. James, could you read this for us and translate it for us, please?
Yes, sir. Tau te adelphoi metaschematisa eis emauton kai Apollo dihumas ihina en hemin matheta tome huper ho gegraptai phronein hiname eis huper ton tu henos fusius the kata tu heteru. And I translated that with an elliptical noun, the word things, and I translated as follows. And these things, brethren, I transformed to myself and Apollos on account of you, in order that in us you may learn not to think above what has been written, in order that no one may become arrogant in behalf of one against the other.
That's pretty good to me. All right. I want you to notice here, these brethren had kind of gotten out of line, hadn't they? They're trying to go off and follow men and make sex out of in the church, and yet he still calls them brethren. They're brethren, but they're in danger of losing their souls unless they get themselves straight. So the word brethren is found 29 times in 1 Corinthians. And that's adelphos. And then it's translated brethren, that's King James Version. 9 times it's translated brother. In spite of their problems, he treated them as brethren. And of course, that's in accordance with 2 Thessalonians 3:15. Now we have 2 classes of people we deal with. And there are those who are just led astray, they're ignorant, or someone led them astray. And they may even mean well, but they're wrong. And we treat them gently, and that's 2 Timothy 2, verse 24 through 26. And see that. But we find some people are dishonest, and they know they're not right, and they're dishonest. And those people, we treat them sharply. We see this in Titus 1, about verse 9 through 13. So our problem is, we have to decide, is this person honestly mistaken or dishonest? Now, what do I assume? Unless I have evidence, I assume the best and treat them gently. And of course, they may show themselves to be dishonest, but I don't engage them in a sharp manner unless I know that they're being dishonest, right? If I hear a guy say, well, I know that's right, but I'm not going to do it anyhow, then I have to say, well, now I get kind of sharp with it. You're in danger, I can speak more strongly to that person. That would be Titus 1. Reprove them sharply, Titus 1. Right? But I think we have to always be aware, if we have any doubt as to whether they are honest or dishonest, we must assume honesty until we have evidence to the contrary. Because that's the righteous thing to do. We don't accuse without hard, solid evidence. That makes sense what we're saying? Any questions? So I have in a figure transferred it back to me, right? To myself and Apollos. Right? And why did I do that? Well, so I could teach you for your sakes, on account of you. Because you need this lesson. That you might learn, you might be instructed, right, in us, or by us, or in me using us as examples. Now, notice here, not is told me. That's the article. And then it has told me, and then it has pronoun, and that's an infinitive. So, why do we have the article with that infinitive? What does that tell us?
Result or purpose?
Yes, it's the result or purpose, and it's treating it like it's an event. Because it's with the article, it's treating that infinitive like it's basically a noun. So it becomes an event, and it could be a result or a purpose, a result or the purpose, either one. So that's what it's doing here, and that's to have an understanding, to think of men above. Now this is the understanding, or to have wisdom. But it's not Sophia wisdom, it's Fronane or Fronao wisdom. And that's more like worldly wisdom. It's wisdom to accomplish what you want done. And you're going beyond, above that which is written. So he's saying you never go against what's been written. Right? So our standard for our conduct has to be God's word. We never go against anything that's written in the Bible. And of course, when it's written, it's almost always in the perfect tense. And I had that B-R-E-F, it should be B-E-R-F. I transposed those two letters right there, okay? I'll straighten that out. Right. So this is the Old Testament scriptures. Now, if these were Jews that were doing this, the Old Testament itself had even told them not to do that kind of thing. And they should have learned from the Old Testament. If they're Jews, they should have learned you never go against God's word. You always go by it and never contradict God's word. Okay. And the principle, if it's true for the Old Testament, the lesser covenant, it's certainly true for the greater covenant. You never go against it. Clearly, they were elevating men to levels that was beyond what the scriptures say. And so that which is written may refer to the two greatest commandments. It's possible, we don't know for sure. That, for the purpose, no one, and now, this is may, it's not who. Right? To be puffed up. Now, why does it have may instead of who?
If you got a choice in the matter.
Yeah, you got a choice. And
It's not indicative.
with the mind, doesn't it? But it's also it has subjunctive mood, and that's why, because it's dealing with the mind. Right? So you got a choice. Who would just deny the fact? I'm going to hold this up for the two in the class, and I say this is a Mercedes-Benz car, and they're looking at it and say, you're an idiot, it's just a computer mouse. Okay, so it's not a Mercedes-Benz car, I can say that. I have it in my hand. So it's what we see is who would deny the fact. May would get into dealing with your will of the mind. And that's why it goes with the imperative mood and other moods like that. So I don't want you to be puffed up. And so my intention is that you not be puffed up. Be all swelled up. My parents used to say if you pout, you got in trouble with them for it. But if you pouted a little bit, they say he's all puffed up like an old toad frog, a toad. Old toad will swell up, you know. And sometimes they'll swell up to make themselves look bigger than they really are. Two dogs in a fight will ruffle their fur up, but make themselves look bigger than they really are. And so that's what they're doing. They're making themselves look bigger than they really are. And they're puffed up for the one against the other. Now the other is heteros. What's the difference? Heteros and allos.
It's a different one.
It's a different one of a different class, isn't it?
Well, that's what they're making it, but
Yeah.
he's saying that they aren't.
Yeah. And they're not really, they're all in the same group. But they were put them in different classes. We got a Paulicite Christians and Cephasite Christians and Paulite Christians. All right. It's a partisan spirit. And
So if I put this all together, just to make sure I understand it, it appears that Paul is using himself and Apollos as examples of this to get the point across that one is not more important than the other, and he does not hold to that one's more important than the other, so that they can, by example, understand humility.
And he's going to go on and elaborate some more on it.
Other
verses. Yes. And it's possible, especially for your sakes, is saying he did not call their names because there might be a hardening in their sin. Sometimes it's better to be more oblique or just kind of make a point and back off a little bit and let them think about it a while sometimes. I think sometimes we get too strong with people. Sometimes we need to give them time to study a matter out. Sometimes they didn't get that way overnight, and you're not going to correct them overnight. Maybe you can show them their method of studying the Bible is even wrong or flawed, and they're approaching it wrong. I had a preacher one time that really was adamant that you shouldn't say loaf at the Lord's Supper. We're going to give thanks for this loaf, because it's not loaf, it's bread. And so I showed him, and he was taking Greek under me. This was years ago. And I said, well, it's artos. The Greek word is artos. And that's translated both loaf and bread, both ways in the New Testament. And he said, what? And I said, yes. And I said, let's look at it. And we did. He said, well, I've been wrong. I'm going to quit doing that. Well, you see, he was honest-hearted. Does that make sense? He was zealous to be sure we were right in what we were doing, but he just was wrong in that picking the point on that matter. Okay. Any questions or comments, anybody? All right. Our job is not to defeat our opponents. It's what?
Convert them.
Convert them. I have never wanted to defeat anybody I debated. I wanted to defeat their error, but I wanted to convert them. I wanted to convert the audience whenever I would debate somebody. I don't want to harden them in their sins. And if they're already hardened in their sins, then maybe we have to be sharp with them. Titus 1:10 through 16, but we deal with them more strongly. But the mode of operation of those who cling to a sect is they often elevate the leader of their sect and denigrate leaders of all other sects. Right? Those who claim to be of Paul probably denigrated both Apollos and Cephas. They put them down. Those who claim to be of Apollos, they put down Paul and Cephas and Peter, and so forth. Well, if I've heard people say they had a favorite preacher and he was eloquent, and this other preacher wasn't quite so eloquent. And I've said, hey, they're both preaching the truth. I don't care how eloquent he is. If he preaches truth, I'm cheering him on. Does that make sense? Any questions? We don't need that. We don't need to make it. I don't care if a brother is a better song leader than I am. If he is, let's let him lead singing. But if no one's there, Marion will lead it, and I'll do my best. And so, but anyhow, any questions or comments? We're pretty close to being through for the hour. My translation of verse 6. Now these things, brethren, I have in a figure transferred to myself and Apollos for your sakes, that in us, and I footnoted that, or by means of us, you might learn not to go beyond the things which are written, that no one of you may be puffed up in the behalf of one against a different one. That's how I translated this. Hetero's a different one. Somebody in a different group. You're trying to make sects out of the church. Okay? You're not in my little group. Well, if my little group is teaching the truth and your little group is teaching the truth, then we shouldn't be caring about how important or how eloquent or whatever the good-looking the preacher might be or the leader. I've heard good men that were eloquent, and I've heard good men that weren't eloquent, but their sermons were meaty. You know, you got a lot out of them. So which would you want? Well, I want one that's eloquent and meaty both. Okay, but if you can't get them, whatever you get, I'll take the meat first rather than the eloquence for me. But if that man is eloquent and he's still preaching the truth, I'm happy for him. Okay. All right. Any questions? we are ready for verse 7, and we're down to verse 13 after. We normally quit about 15 after. So, any questions or comments? Okay.